From the projects to a $100 billion empire, the Howard Schultz story. If this is your first time here, welcome to Unstoppable You. Hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It helps us reach more people who need this message. Now let's get into it. What if I told you that the man behind one of the most recognizable brands on the planet grew up so poor that his family couldn't afford a doctor when his father broke his ankle? What if I told you he was rejected by banks over 200 times before anyone believed in his dream? And what if I told you that dream, the one nobody wanted to fund, became a company worth over $100 billion? This is the story of Howard Schultz, the man who built Starbucks, and more importantly, the man who refused to let where he came from decide where he was going. The projects: Brooklyn, New York, 1954. Howard Schultz was born into a family with very little. His parents were working-class Jewish Americans living in a federally subsidized housing project called Bayview. Money was always tight. Opportunity felt non-existent. When Howard was 7 years old, his father, a truck driver, slipped on ice while making a delivery and broke his ankle. No health insurance, no sick pay, no safety net of any kind. His father lay at home unable to work while the bills piled up, and the family fell further into poverty. That image never left Howard. His father, a hard-working, honest man, completely broken by a system that offered him no protection, no dignity. Howard made a silent promise to himself in that moment. If he ever built something, anything, he would make sure the people who worked for him would never feel what his father felt. That promise would one day change the way corporations treated their employees forever. But first, he had to find a way out of Brooklyn. The escape. Howard was athletic, smart, hungry in a way that only people who have had nothing truly understand. He earned a football scholarship to Northern Michigan University, the first person in his entire family to ever attend college. He worked multiple jobs to cover what the scholarship didn't. He sold his blood plasma for extra cash. But he made it through and graduated in 1975. He moved back to New York and worked his way up in sales. He was good at it, sharp, persuasive, driven. He eventually landed a job at a housewares company called Hammerplast, where he noticed one of their small clients in Seattle was ordering an unusually high number of coffee drip machines. Curious, he flew to Seattle to find out why. What he found was a small coffee bean store called Starbucks. Just 4 locations. But the coffee, the experience, was unlike anything he had ever encountered. He walked in and felt something shift inside him. This was it. The vision nobody else could see. Howard joined Starbucks as director of marketing in 1982. A year later, he traveled to Milan, Italy, and visited an espresso bar. He stood there watching Italians gather, laugh, connect, all around a cup of coffee. The barista knew every customer by name. It wasn't just coffee, it was community. Howard came back to America on fire. He went to the Starbucks founders and pitched his vision: transform Starbucks from a coffee bean retailer into an experience, a third place between home and work where people could belong. They said no, so Howard did what every great entrepreneur eventually has to do. He went out on his own. He opened his own coffee shop called Il Giornale in 1986. It was a hit. 2 years later, when the original Starbucks founders decided to sell their small chain, Howard scraped together every investor he could find and bought it for just under $4 million. He had his company. Now he had to build it. The rejections and the rise. What happened next was not an overnight success story. Howard pitched his vision to 242 investors. 217 of them said, no, too risky. Americans don't drink espresso. Nobody will pay that much for coffee. But 25 people said, yes, and that was enough. Howard expanded Starbucks across America with a ferocity that shocked the industry. But what truly set him apart was a decision that had nothing to do with coffee. In 1988, he offered full health insurance to all Starbucks employees, including part-time workers. This was almost unheard of at the time. People thought he was out of his mind. You can't run a profitable business giving benefits to part-time staff. Howard remembered his father on that floor in Brooklyn, and he did it anyway. That decision built a loyalty among his workforce that money alone could never buy. Starbucks employees became brand ambassadors. They cared because he cared. And that culture became one of the most powerful competitive advantages in business history. Today, Starbucks operates in over 80 countries. It has more than 35,000 locations worldwide, and it is worth over $100 billion. But Howard Schultz didn't start with money. He didn't start with connections. He didn't start with anyone believing in him. He started in the projects of Brooklyn with a broken father, a quiet promise, and an unshakable belief that things could be different. He was rejected over 200 times and kept going. He was told his idea would never work and built it anyway. He remembered where he came from, not to be ashamed of it, but to make sure he never forgot the people who needed someone to fight for them. That is the real Starbucks story. Not the green logo, not the pumpkin spice latte, but a boy from Brooklyn who refused to accept that his beginning was his destiny, and neither should you. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Unstoppable You, drop a like, and we will see you in the next one. You're unstoppable. Act like it.